allotted time. All questions become the property of League of Women Voters of Eastern Carver County. And in just a moment, we'll go live. Good evening. I'm Laura Helmer, Chair of Voter Service for League of Women Voters of Eastern Carver County, and moderator for the forum this evening. On behalf of the League, I would like to welcome you to the City of Chaska Special Election Candidate Forum. We thank both the candidates and the audience for attending tonight and our online audience for viewing. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose a political party or a candidate for office. League of Women Voters Eastern Carver County has a long-standing history in our community of providing unbiased candidate and issue information that is widely used by Minnesota voters regardless of their political beliefs. Sponsorship of this forum is a public service providing you with an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss important issues face-to-face. The views expressed here tonight are those of the candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. Sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement by the League of any particular candidate. There is never enough time to cover all the issues. If you feel that your question was not addressed, please contact the candidate directly after the forum. We will start the candidate forum with opening statements. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes for their opening statement. Opening statements will be given in alphabetical order by office, beginning with the candidates for City Council Ward 2, Nate Bostrom and Taylor Hubbard, and then candidates for City Council Ward 4, Mike Wong and Maggie O'Connor. The order of answering questions and the closing statements will be rotated based on a randomly generated grid, with each candidate being given an opportunity to answer first. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes to respond to the questions. Please note our timekeepers, who have 30-second and then a 15-second sign. They also have a stop sign, or will call time to be sure each candidate adheres to the 1.5 minutes. The first questions have been prepared by the League of Women Voters Eastern Carver County. Additional questions will be those submitted by the audience here and those submitted to the League's email address by the public, candidate, or the candidate's campaign. So let's begin with the opening statements. Nate Bostrom first, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's nice to be here. My name is Nate. I'm, as you know, a candidate for Ward 2, City Council. Currently serving on an interim basis. You're going to hear this a lot from others. I'll be the first to say I love Chaska. It's fun to live here. Judy and I have been residents for about 20 years. Our kids and grandkids love to visit Grandpa and Grandma here. And over the last decade or so, I've had the privilege of serving in a wide variety of ways for a really wide variety of organizations. It's fun serving others. I promise to continue what I've done for the last decade, put others first, consider everyone else in the room to be smarter than I am, to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to take any kind of umbrage or anger or frustration with viewpoints that are not mine or are different than mine. I take public service very seriously. I want to know that I've heard everyone in the room, everyone in the community, and let's all work together. We say that this is the best small town in Minnesota, and that's not on the basis of budgets and berms and boulevards. It's on the basis of how we treat each other and what we think. I don't think it's out of line to say that a town that loves each other is the best small town, and I promise to do what I can for that. Thank you so much.
Taylor Hubbard.
Hi, I'm Taylor Hubbard, and I'm running for the Ward 2 City Council seat. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and the community members attending tonight. I have called Chaska my home for 15 years with my husband Martin and young son Ethan. I grew up in the Southwest Metro, and I'm an alumni of Chaska High School. Go Hawks! I am an active member in the community, and I've previously served on the Chaska Human Rights Commission. I have also served on various boards, and I was the president of the Twin Cities Professional Photographers Association. For the past 9 years, I have owned and operated a small business in the neighboring community, where I'm an active chamber member and a Rotarian, specifically working with the Youth Exchange Program. I want to listen to all the citizens of Chaska and be a voice for the future. I will drive smart growth, embrace fairness and transparency in commercial development, reinvest in our community center, promote affordable and available housing, foster improved communication, trust, and respect, stand up for inclusion and equal rights. From residents to businesses to city officials, our positive growth stems from our rich diversity. So I say, let's embrace it and build on it. I believe Chaska is more than a small town. If we rekindle the love and respect and open communication, we can build a better community, a better hometown.
Thank you. Mike Wong.
Good evening. 17 years ago next month, my wife and I moved here to Chaska right after we got back from our honeymoon. Moving the day after a vacation isn't a great decision, but choosing to move to Chaska was one of the best decisions we ever made. We chose Chaska because of the small town feel, the excellent schools, low taxes, and the relatively easy access to the metro, even before the new 212 was built. We are now immersed in the community. My wife works for the school district, and we have 2 children who attend Chaska schools, a first grader and a freshman at Chaska High. We're incredibly blessed to be in a community with wonderful neighbors and close friends, a community that is safe, warm, and diverse with an inviting culture. A little over 10 years ago, I was inspired to enter public service because of a development near my home. My neighbors and I didn't feel their voices were being heard over the developers' goals and the city. We took action. We got involved. We attended meetings. We pushed back. Then I ran for council because I believed, and I still do today, that each of us needs a voice in our city council. For the past decade, Voluntary Young Planning Commission and other groups here in the city, I've dedicated myself to doing my best to be that voice for the residents here in the city as we build homes, retail, dining, healthcare, parks, and trails. I've learned a lot as a volunteer during the past 10 years on the Planning Commission, but my passion to serve our community burns just as brightly now as it did then. I love Chaska. I will do all that I can to make the place all of our children and grandchildren want to call home.
Thank you. And Maggie O'Connor.
All right, I'd first like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and thank everybody for taking the time to be here, either in person or watching online. I want to ensure representation for all Chaska citizens. My husband and I chose Chaska as the city where we wanted to raise our family, moving here shortly before our daughter was born. I want to ensure that Chaska is a city that my daughter, Eleanor, can be proud to grow up in. I do have experience in city government. I served on the Eden Prairie Conservation Commission, and my work history includes managing a small business. I've worked extensively in logistics, and I'm currently a student studying human diversity and ethnic studies. One of my main priorities is affordable housing. Housing in Chaska is 33% more expensive than the statewide average. People should be able to afford to live in the city in which they work. Diversity and inclusion are also very important to me. I want to make sure that we celebrate the diversity of the people of Chaska and that everyone feels welcome in our community. Smart economic development with a strong emphasis on small businesses and businesses that pay their employees a livable wage is also a priority. Thank you.
All right, the first question will come to you, Taylor. In what ways can the city promote affordable housing?
That's a great question. As one of my points for wanting to run is to promote affordable housing. I think the city can do so with land development and new developers coming in. I think that they can. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Sorry, guys. I'm like the first question. Okay, so I think they can incentivize developers to make affordable housing as part of development projects. Kind of specifically speaking to the southwest area of Chaska, that's kind of the last area of Chaska that hasn't been developed yet. I think smart growth in that area and smart planning with housing, doing different levels of housing and as far as low density or mid density or high density, and then also really incentivizing developers to, or even requiring them to have affordable housing as part of that. My family, we've lived in our townhouse for about 9 years, and we just haven't been able to take the next step forward because of affordable housing, so I know that it's a very personal issue to me as well.
Maggie?
Well, affordable housing is important, and affordable means different things to different people, which is, I think, a really important point to make. What's affordable to me may not be affordable to other people, and vice versa. I think that being able to afford to live in the city in which you work is really important, and that's not something that everybody here has. I think that, as Taylor stated, incentivizing developers is a smart start, but I think that the city does need to look more into what we can do to provide that affordable housing. People shouldn't have to choose between paying for housing and paying for food, or paying for, things that their children need. And simply stating that, oh, neighboring communities haven't done enough, we've hit our quota, I don't think is enough. Just because we've hit our quota of so-called affordable housing doesn't mean that we can't do more to promote that housing. In addition, I think one thing that we can do is look at business and economic development and make sure that we are trying to attract businesses that pay livable wages for their employees. Thank you.
Candidates, I should let you know also, if you ever need a question repeated, please just ask me. Nate.
In fact, I'll take you up on that, please.
All right. In what ways can the city promote affordable housing?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Taylor and Maggie have hit on it. It's not a question that is immediately solvable, I don't believe. We all have our opinions. In fact, what I'd like to do is ask you, if you would, think of closing your eyes and picture the number 7. We probably all know we would identify that digit, that numeral. Now close your eyes and say affordable housing. What does affordable look like? What kind of a range of dollars came to your mind? Mine, any of ours. Housing, what does that look like? How many units? What kind of units? What age demographics? Where would it be located? Many times, and Maggie made some comments, alluded to this, that I thought were very prescient to what I'm about to say. A lot of times affordable housing doesn't come down to the dollars. It doesn't come down to the unit styles. It comes down to, where do we want these homes? Who do we picture when we close our eyes, not focusing on the number 7, but visualize, who do we think lives in affordable housing? Do we all agree the words affordable and housing are something that unifies us right now? Are we prepared as a community and individual members to say, oh, I get it, we're all alike. We all think the same thing when we hear affordable and housing. I think the role of the city council is to bring us together, have conversations, and be honest, and get to that unified vision. Then let's see what we can do with affordable housing. Probably a lot more success than we've had so far.
Mike?
Yeah, healthy communities are really known to have a balance of housing, so low, middle, and upper income housing. That creates the opportunities for people to live and work in the communities that they live in, as well as people to have homes that they can retire in or to raise their children and families. But it's really important to make sure we maintain a healthy balance. And one of the key things about maintaining a healthy balance is that if we go too far one direction or too far another direction, we disrupt that, and it changes the underlying fabric and culture of what our community is like. And one of the things we need to be very, very careful about is making sure that when we look at, because there's no silver bullets to this answer, right? There's no easy answers, always someone would have said it already, is that these are market-driven homes, right? The land, the properties, those are things that are owned by homeowners, they're owned by landowners today, and the market effectively drives the rates and the costs of those. So the real question is, how do we work with the community to find ways and opportunities to create affordable housing when it makes sense, to keep it balanced so that way we can maintain the culture of the community that we want. And that's investigation, due diligence, and discussions with community members and with businesses and other organizations around. Thank you.
All right. This next question will come to you first, Maggie. What are 3 specific steps you would advocate for the city in order to improve communication with residents?
I think that the city of Chaska has recently taken some positive steps in opening lines of communication. However, I think that there's more that can be done with social media. I think that placing more information online is helpful. I know that there have been times in the past where I have been looking for information in the city or about the city, and I haven't been able to find that. So I think that that would also be helpful, is, you know, hitting social media a little bit differently, a little bit harder maybe, making the website, the city website, easier to navigate and also have more information. And I think just encouraging citizens and residents of Chaska to communicate with their city council members and being more open with that ability to communicate. I know that the website has, I think, email and phone numbers available, but I think that it took a little bit of digging to find that information, and I think that being more upfront with that information would be helpful.
Mike.
The interesting thing about communities is that oftentimes we focus on the national picture. We focus on who the president is, who our senators are. But when we first moved to Chaska, like many people, we didn't really know who our elected officials were representing us in the city council. And many people in many communities just don't. And I believe that one of the things that we need to do a better job at isn't just reach out on social media. That's the easy, sure, we'll just reach out and put it at your fingertips. But, you know, to put ourselves out there, and as a city, we need to create opportunities to say, hey, how can we go out to the public and meet you where you are? To go out and create opportunities, whether it's like a meet and greet at coffee shops or create meet and greet at community gathering events where people do congregate. And that, you know, like for example, National Night Out, right? That's a great opportunity for us to be out in the community, to meet the people who are our constituents and to be part of that community. So it's really, ultimately, it's incumbent upon the city to, not just the city, but the elected officials and representatives to represent that voice. And one of the most important things we can do is really drive home that it's a two-way street. It's not just about us reaching out, but it's also about giving people an opportunity to reach out and say, hey, call me. I've got a question. I don't know how this works. I want to know more about this. How can we help you?
Nate?
Well, let's just, the old saying, think outside the box. How about we just get a little crazy here? You define crazy. Why not have city council meetings at different locations? Maybe a round robin that instead of always here, always in this format. Nothing wrong with this, but let's try something else where every now and then the city council will have its meetings in a different location at a different time, a different day, and with a specific idea of reaching a different audience and including. I could see maybe holding council and staff employee retreats or mini work sessions, maybe at Chaska High School. Make a special effort at that kind of venue where we make sure that parents, teachers, and the students are especially encouraged to be there and have a civic participation. Maybe credit for their grades. Part of the would be awarded as they write summary papers or pass little quizzes on what's happened. A third might be working closer with our homeowner associations. We've got dozens of them throughout our city. I would like to see a greater effort or a closer relationship between the city, staff, and council and commissions and our homeowner associations. All kinds of ideas would be generated and thoughts and perspectives shared. So I'd say let's be crazy. We can do just about anything. We can't do everything, but we could do a lot of different ways of bringing people together.
Taylor?
Can you repeat the question for me one more
Yes.
time?
What are 3 specific steps you would advocate for the city in order to improve communication with residents?
3 specific steps. Okay. So one, I would improve the website. In doing a lot of research for this forum, I found that some of the pages on the website didn't include like upcoming projects that were of even 5 years ago. So I think that they've hired a communications manager from my understanding in my research, and so I'm sure it's on the list of things to do, but I would kind of push for that to happen maybe a little bit faster. And then, like Maggie had touched on, just having those contact information very well available on the website, and then having it be easy to navigate. I don't find that website's very easy to navigate. I think engagement with the community is another area that could help with the city. I think all the commissions being together, I hear, again in my research, that they are meeting to kind of talk about what their roles is, what their roles are, and learning about each other. But I think bouncing ideas off of one another and just really getting to know each other can help engagement with each other, and then in turn engagement with the community. But I think just the big thing is being a part of the community, engaging in community activities, being in the schools, talking to the Chaska Police Department, being in the library. I think all of those amenities, being a part of those, will help with communication.
Thank you. Nate, this next question comes to you first. What can the council do to combat racism in our community?
Yeah, set a good example for one thing. We're not the school board, we're not commissions. The city council should, above and beyond, the first thing that we should be known for is we are inclusive the way we behave ourselves. Not receiving and willing to receive information and feedback. We go get it. We ask for it. We invite. We find answers when we ask all the right questions. I think we should have a role in modeling the behavior where if it's open forum or it's going sort of on the road around town meeting and interacting with formal groups or informal events, maybe it's tents at River City Days, whatever it is, we should be out front role modeling. There's some dynamic responses regarding culture and equity at Chaska High School. Unfortunate events, regrettable, but what I'm so proud of is the actions that are being taken intentionally. We have specialists, we have faculty, we've got professionals, and the kids themselves and the supportive parents. We're reacting well, and maybe the city council should learn first from them. We learn together. I think it's openness in a role model that everything we do and the way we carry ourselves is inclusive, it's welcoming, and again, I'll go back to the opening statement I made, consider everyone else more important than us. And we serve, we're not just public servants, we serve first, you're the public. Role modeling, I guess.
Mike?
So ultimately, we're as the city of Chaska is really responsible for like roads, highway infrastructure. Many of those things are kind of brick and mortar to us. But from a racism perspective, we can really set the bar with two different areas. The first is really with community gatherings, really creating opportunities for people to have positive interactions and to be able to break down the barriers, to build bridges, to be able to have positive experiences that will generate the community kind of feelings that we want, where people have the relationships and have the ability to say, hey, you know what, I think that's really cool, or that's really neat, rather than having the fear of not understanding another culture or another perspective. And ultimately, one of the other things, the second thing, is that our police department is often the public face of the city, and really helping them with the training and helping them with their outreach, because they are the ones who are in the front lines every day, working with the community, working with people all throughout the community. So it's really important to help support them as well, and to make sure that they're supportive and engaging in everything that they do. And I know that they've strove very hard to do that. There's been things that have come up in the past that have been quickly addressed. And we want to continue making sure that it's continually positive and it's a good outcome for all involved.
Maggie?
Well, some of the things that we can do include, as Nate said, setting a good example. I'm a mother of a toddler. She's 1.5 years old, and I always keep in the back of my mind, what am I doing to promote diversity and inclusion to her? And as city council members, I think that we can do, if we keep that same thought in mind, I think it would do a lot of good. Promoting diversity in the community and hosting educational opportunities to help people learn about other cultures and other ethnic backgrounds, I think would be helpful. Hosting community forums where the city council can get feedback from citizens and from other residents, I think would be helpful. I'm the first to say I don't know everything. I'm sure that many people out there have better ideas than I do, and I would be very open and receptive to hearing those ideas. I think also promoting cultural events in our city would go a long ways to helping with that.
Taylor?
So in regards to racism, I think it needs to be hit dead on as an issue that needs to be condemned. I think as a city leader, we need to stand firm on that. I think we need to be very clear on that in our communication as city leaders, and then in hand with what some of the other candidates have said, then in also promote opportunities to bring in an awareness of racism and of other cultures so that people can see other cultures, learn from other cultures, and put a face to the different cultures in our community. Being a Rotarian, I'm the youth exchange counselor, so I have an opportunity to meet another person from another country and pretty much spend a year with them. I'm also married to an African American. We have a biracial son. I have seen the face of racism, and I will not stand for it. So I, for one, would say that is not acceptable, and I would try then to promote people to be educated and learn from other cultures so that hopefully it can maybe change their thinking to a more positive way of life.
Thank you. The next question comes to you first, Mike. It's in the same vein, but it's a little bit more of a business tilt to it. What will you do to foster relationships with business owners who are culturally diverse and keep them feeling welcome in Chaska?
And can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What will you do to foster relationships with business owners who are culturally diverse and keep them feeling welcome in Chaska?
The absolute first thing about keeping a culturally diverse community is really about outreach. It's making sure that we're connected to all the businesses, the consumers, the people who buy from the stores and shops, and really support them, right? Ultimately, the success of any business is dependent upon people shopping at and consuming the goods and services that are purchased from those businesses. So supporting them and finding out what are their needs, what are the things that will help them be successful, that's really ultimately the first question to ask them, and really look to them to say, you know what are the key things that we can do as a city to support you? Every business has different needs, and to have a blanket statement, I think, is not really accurate, but I think that we absolutely have an obligation to go out to reach out to those businesses and make sure that we're supporting them and providing them what they need to be successful.
Maggie?
Well, as Mike said, I think personally visiting the different businesses is a really key point, making sure that they have contact information that they need so that they can reach out to their city council members as needed. I think remembering that the business owners are people. They are people first and business owners second. And yes, we want to make sure that their businesses are successful. We want to also make sure that they are personally fulfilled as people. Doing what we can to encourage small business growth in the city is important. And like I said, just people first. That's what I'm all about.
Taylor?
I like where Maggie was going with that. I think communication with business owners is key. Engaging them, finding out, what brought them to town if they're new, and what are they looking for from Chaska, and then engaging with them to see if you can help solve any needs that they have and make life great for them here. So I welcome any businesses that come into town. Helping promote them, being a friendly face that visits their shop, telling other neighbors and friends that they are in town, and then asking them their needs. Finding ways to celebrate that they're a part of the community now, and then also directing them to other organizations that can help promote their business and also bring consumers to them, like the Chamber and others, specified like the Downtown Business Alliance. So I think those kind of engagements would help them feel welcome, and then just making sure that they know that if they ever had anything that they needed to address, that you're a friendly face and you will listen. So,
Nate?
Yeah, I'll fall back again on my general theme is that the City Council doesn't mandate behavior, but it sure can role model it in very positive and effective ways. Would love to see, for instance, the city website maybe have a recurring or a revolving focus on these business owners, their story, their experiences here on the Chaska City website. I would like to see the City Council and maybe the Chaska Herald newspaper come up with cooperative efforts, collaborative efforts where we do that, maybe create an event or an open forum, intentional visit at a City Council meeting. I'd like to see the City Council and the Human Rights Commission join efforts and set something up with the Chaska High School students and their families on that site, on the campus of the school, and then visit each business, learn about culture and food. So much of what the Chaska High School response has been to some ugly incidents as late as culture, music, food. What an effective way to cross boundaries. And these businesses, after all, I forget, Maggie or Mike referred to it, they're in the business to make money. How can we encourage traffic flow and help them with future hiring? That's a City Council discussion, not a decision yet, a discussion. Ask for information, listen, and work together. Collaboration doesn't always happen overnight, but it does happen.
Taylor, this is coming to you. What are your thoughts about a possible new library?
I think it's an excellent idea. I really do love the current location of the library. It's very warm and inviting. My son and I have spent some time in here, in that library here in the building, just recently a few times, and he loves it when I read and then other kids come up and then I feel like a little story time teller. But it's just such a warm and inviting environment. But I also see while I'm there just how much use it gets and just how many people are utilizing the library, and I think it could just benefit from maybe being a little bit larger and having a little bit more space, especially for engagement opportunities for people to host meetings or things along those lines, just be able to kind of better utilize the space. So I am in support of a different library location, but I do really like the quaintness of the current library. So,
Nate?
Big fan of libraries. I think that they could be the location for planned activities, planned lectures, discussions. They could be the center for what I'd label as serendipity. People coming together and say, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. I didn't know you came here. How old are your kids now? So planned, serendipitous. It can also be a community building a draw. It can be that location where people go and then do other things. Where would our library be? How could it be positioned and leveraged to help everything we're doing in downtown Chaska? Its location, its size, and then how we use it. Very important. If we can direct traffic to other locations, other services, fabulous. The library can be a destination. It can also be a spot along the way to a full day of exciting things. It's great for building community character as we learn together individually, as families, and as a community. I think a library is one of those places that a town just has to absolutely have, and I'm biased that way. I love libraries.
Mike?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What are your thoughts about a possible new library?
Our current library, which people may or may not know, is actually downstairs from where we're sitting right now, so we're literally right on top of it. And the library itself was built back in the 1980s, as was this building. And it's actually about 30 to 40% undersized for the size community we are today. And that's a huge problem because anyone from the library will tell you there's not enough space for not just books, but the media materials, gathering spaces, community rooms, and areas where people will gather and actually use this to learn and to expand and to be able to grow. And the problem is that our community is growing as well too. So because the community is growing and we also have an undersized library means that it's that much more important that we provide the services that our community members really truly deserve, which is to have that bigger library. They need this space. They need a space for the media materials, for the gathering places to do tutoring, to learn, to reading times, for all ages, whether it's toddlers who are just learning to read and aspiring to gain knowledge, or whether it's older adults who just want a place where they can gather with their friends and read and just have some quiet time. So it's really important that we provide this for our community and for generations to follow.
And Maggie?
I am also a huge fan of libraries. I grew up as a kid and a young adult, going to the library and checking out as many books as they'd let me. And we really do have a great resource in our library here. You know, we have multiple story times each week. We have a master gardener that's here each week in the summertime. And, you know, as everybody else up here has said, our library is undersized for our community. And I think that a larger library is definitely a positive, because the more space we have, the more opportunities we have. More space, there's more room for books, there's more room for the various media collections, there's more room for meetings, there's more room to build community. You know, anybody that's been here on a busy day knows that there's not enough parking in the parking lot for everybody. You know, as a mom of a young toddler that is just now starting to try running away, it can be really rough trying to find a parking spot, you know, down the street a little ways and try to keep her in line as we're walking down the sidewalk to get to the library. You know, libraries are full of knowledge and learning opportunities, and that knowledge that you can gain leads to a deeper understanding of other people. And I think that that's something that we really need here.
Nate, this is coming to you first. How do you work to understand a side of an issue with which you do not personally agree?
The premise takes it for granted that I know enough already to disagree. I know that happens. I try not to make that a habit. In my opening statement, I said I want to be quick to listen. So I really, with 29 years in higher education, I've always learned that the size of the population sample is really the major determinant whether your research or your foundation statements, your summaries are any good. So I like to hear everyone's opinion. I like to hear pro and con. Tie this to the city council. I think the city council meeting is the last place that the first discussion on any major topic should occur. When the city council gets a discussion item and starts wrestling with a topic, our commissions, task forces, ad hoc community, neighborhood groups, homeowner associations, citizen forums, all of that should happen first in an ideal world. Knowing that an ideal world doesn't always happen, I always push for one. I advocate for that. So to disagree, I would say I'm one opinion. I'm one person on a team, a council, and a community. But I want to make sure first that what I do best is listen and gather all the information possible to make sure that I know what I'm disagreeing about, if in fact I do.
Taylor?
So that's a really good question, because there are a lot of hard decisions that are made as a city council member, and I know that in this position, decisions that are made, it's not that there's a win and a lose, but knowing that somebody's life or livelihood or quality of life is going to be affected by decisions that are made. I don't take that very lightly. I credit myself as being a very thorough researcher, almost to the part where, you know, decisions don't always get made on my business in as quick a manner as I would like them to be, but they get done. And so research is very key for me. Listening to people is another really key factor in regards to a decision that I would make. Not being quick to rush to a decision in my own head, listening to other people's perspectives and listening to them, not dismissing them. I think dismissal is so disheartening, and it's really hard to be on the receiving end of that. So even though decisions have to be made and it may affect someone to what they feel is their disbenefit, I think it's important to give care and concern before making those decisions.
Maggie?
Can you repeat the question, please?
How do you work to understand a side of an issue with which you do not personally agree?
You know, the biggest thing that I do is I like to listen and hear other people's perspectives. You know, I've said it before, I'm not an expert on everything, and I fully admit that. I want to hear what other people have to say, what other people think, And I want to make sure that they know I am listening, I am hearing what they say. I am currently a student. I'm used to researching things, you know, like Taylor, I'm also a researcher. I have no problem diving in and trying to find an answer. You know, I would make sure that I go out in the community and ask my neighbors, ask the fellow residents. You know, while I'm getting my Caribou coffee, start a conversation, ask other people their perspective. Because I think that if we approach decisions with the fact in mind that we're all just human beings. We all come to everything with our own opinions, with our own thoughts, our own wants and our own needs, and just trying to understand that even if I don't agree with somebody, there's a reason that they think what they think, and to try to understand that is what I would do.
Mike?
Every one of us has a story. Our stories are all different, they're unique. And because of that, part of really understanding why there's disagreement over an issue is really understanding what's the root cause, what's the driving thing, that passion that someone believes that they're so dissimilar from their own position. And it's really asking that question to try to put yourself in that other person's shoes to understand why. And I think ultimately that empathy, that ability to be able to say, hey, I can identify with where you're coming from, is really the core to be able to say, how can we work together to solve something? I'm not a big believer in decisions that can't be rectified. I'm a believer in coming together to figure out how do we solve problems. I've never run across an issue that was so, or very rarely run across issues so divergent that we can't find some way to meet in the middle, especially when it comes to community issues like roads and schools or buildings. I believe that it's fundamentally about being respectful, giving people the time and listening, and making sure that we're giving people the latitude, that broad range of discussions to share how they really feel and help them understand deep down what's really the pain that we're trying to solve here.
All right, Maggie, this one's to you first. Please tell us about a time when you made a mistake and took ownership for it.
You know, I'm human. I make mistakes. I've made plenty of them. I will say it's difficult being put on the spot trying to think of a specific mistake. That is a tough one. You know, I used to manage a UPS store in Eden Prairie, and there was one specific incident where two different people had come in and wanted a package to be packed by me and my employees and to be shipped out. And I'm not sure exactly where the mistake was made, but we sent the wrong package to the wrong person. So, you know, the one person sending a gift to their grandchild accidentally got, you know, their grandchild got the gift that was meant for somebody's, you know, business partner. And as soon as we realized what had happened, I, you know, immediately took ownership of that. Apologized profusely, and went ahead and made it right, regardless of the cost to the business, because, you know, what mattered was the people, and not the cost to the business, but the people, and making it right to them. I make mistakes, and I have no problem owning up to those mistakes and doing what I can to rectify it.
Mike?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Please tell us about a time when you made a mistake and took ownership for it.
You know, a few years ago, I was working as a project manager on a project, and we were trying to come up with a solution to, you know, solve this technical issue. In the process of doing that, you know, I pushed hard for one solution, but later realized, you know what, this isn't the right way to solve the problem. Ultimately, the ownership fell on me to say, you know what, it's my mistake. I pushed too hard on something when I shouldn't have. And the reality is that leaders will take that responsibility to say, you know what, it's my responsibility, no excuses, let's figure out how do we correct it and move forward. The interesting thing is that on city council and in planning commission, I had opportunities to make decisions on different things and put in recommendations. And there's times in planning commission where I voted on something and thought afterwards, wow, I really wish I could take that back. Because, you know what, maybe it was on the fence on something, but it's not something you can easily do, and I think that ultimately it's one of those things where, from a perspective of what we do in council, those decisions are very, very important that we make right the first time as often as possible. But when we do make mistakes, acknowledge them and then move forward. And how do we move forward and correct them and move forward?
Taylor.
So I was a lighthearted joke. My husband's in the audience. We could definitely ask him maybe for me. But no, in all seriousness, that question is a great question. I own my own business. It's a portrait photography studio. So my job is really centered around client satisfaction and customer service. It's about creating an experience for people and celebrating, whatever it is that brings them in to have portraits taken. With that, I have some employees, and there are times where something didn't get produced right, or I made a mistake, or I over-retouched something even, or a phone call didn't get made, or an email didn't get answered. And even if it's not me, it's an employee, I take that on myself because I am the face of my company. I am responsible for decisions that are made, even if I wasn't the one that had done it, because I take ownership of it, being the boss. So I would take that into being city council, that even if it was something that was a group decision, that I will own up as being part of that decision with that. So ultimately, I think owning up to mistakes and having knowing that taking credit for them is and honesty is a good thing. So,
Nate.
I talked earlier about the variety of roles and the number of organizations, and over a dozen years I've been sitting in meetings and chairing and attending. But there's one that I never forget. I was chairing an annual meeting. It was very contentious. Both sides just couldn't come together, and I received good advice, but I misunderstood. It was my fault. I ended the meeting incorrectly. We ended up, the organization had no board members on its board. We had to call a special meeting, go through that process, re-elect all new board members, dozens and dozens of proxies, maybe hundreds. And one of the first things I did was 3 days after the conclusion of that meeting, I called the organization's legal counsel. I called a couple of the other professional staff members, and I said, you'll be receiving an email here within minutes. And before I hung up the phone, I hit send, and there were at least 2 gentlemen that received it. And in there I stated very, very clearly, my fault. I got good advice, I misunderstood, I ended the meeting incorrectly. It's going to lead to a lot of work refilling the board, renominating, re-electing. Hundreds of meetings I'm very proud of. That one, I did not do it well, and wish I had.
Thank you. We did receive a number of questions from the audience that we are not going to have time to get to, so I'll tell you again, please approach the candidates afterwards if you'd like your questions answered. We have time for one quick lightning round question before we do our closing statements. Don't be scared. I'm going to ask you for 3 words that describe Chaska. All right, 3 words that describe Chaska. And Mike, you're first.
Wow. I'd say community, family, and bridges.
And it's okay to repeat words just to take that pressure off of people. You don't have to have 3 unique words.
Bless your heart.
Maggie.
The 3 words that come to mind for me are diverse, positive, and people.
Nate.
We live here.
Taylor.
okay. People, diversity, and hometown.
All right. Now we'll have our closing statements by the candidates. You'll have 1.5 minutes for your closing statement. And it looks like Taylor, we'll go first with you.
I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the people in the audience, and those viewing online for their time. To close, I'm going to repeat my vision for Chaska to drive smart residential, commercial, and industrial growth, embrace fairness and transparency in commercial development, reinvest in our community center, promote affordable and available housing, foster improved communication, trust, and respect, stand up for inclusion and equal rights. I do believe that Chaska's positive growth stems from a rich diversity, so we must embrace it and build on it. I stand for unity within our community, and I will fight for the small town values and the city amenities that service all of the great people of Chaska. I love Chaska, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store as our community grows. I want to lend a hand in that strategic growth, bring a fresh perspective, and advocate for a better quality of life by listening to all of the Chaska residents. I ask for your vote on May 14th. Thank you.
Mike.
Experience, working together, building bridges. I bring over a decade of volunteer service to Chaska, working together with neighbors, city staff, school district, county elected officials, and businesses to help make this the best community it can be. I'm proud of the fact that I've built positive professional relationships throughout the community as I focus on issues and solutions. From my day job, I bring deep professional experience where I've participated in strategic planning and leadership for multi-billion-dollar organizations. I've served on the board of directors for a local nonprofit and engaged in local educational, health, and public safety causes. And in each of those, I have always strived to be professional, accountable, and drive decisions that are in the best interest of our community. I have a passion to serve everyone in our community, including the young, families, seniors, businesses, and especially those in need. I believe in financial responsibility, keeping our taxes low, and maintaining our strong property values while fostering a safe, welcoming, and positive community culture. Finally, some thank yous. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. Thank you to the Chaska Herald for covering the event. Thank you to my friends, family, neighbors, and supporters. I would not be here without all your efforts. And thank you to each of you here, and those of you who are watching on TV or online tonight. If you have any questions or want to talk, I want to hear from you. Good night.
Maggie.
All right. I'd like to once again thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and I'd also like to thank my fellow candidates for coming out tonight and participating in this important discussion about our city. I'd like to reiterate that affordable housing can mean different things, but everybody across their lifespan, regardless of socioeconomic status, should be able to live in the city in which they work. And we need to be doing more to ensure that there is housing available that's affordable to everyone. I stand for diversity and inclusion and equal rights for all. I want to support small business development and economic development, but economic development shouldn't come solely at the expense of residents, and I want to ensure that people always come first in Chaska. As a mother, I experienced firsthand this winter that there is a lack of indoor play spaces for families, and I would like to do more to see what we can do to promote that. I'm not just another cog in the city machinery. I want to ensure that all residents of Chaska are heard and listened to and feel that their wants and needs are addressed, especially those who may feel that their voices aren't being heard. If anyone has a question that didn't get answered tonight, I invite you to reach out via Facebook or my website. I'm always available to talk and to listen. And also, please vote on May 14th. I'd love it if you voted for me, but even if you don't, please vote. Thank you.
Nate.
One thing I'd like to say is that I think you can trust any one of us, all four of us up here. You know, we talked beforehand, Maggie and Mike and Taylor and I, that we were going to be nice to each other. We were going to, it was going to be the kind of event where everyone, regardless of who you voted to, you could be proud of us and you could be happy about the town you live in. We live here, best small town. We do this together. There's any cut above the grade group of people. There's no insiders. We do this together. We're rapidly growing to 27,000 in population. Housing, businesses. We didn't get a chance tonight. It's such a busy format to talk about what kind of businesses maybe are coming. I'd like to see another river town in Minnesota, Red Wing, with their Red Wing Ignite business incubator. I'd like to see us do that. Wayzata's doing it. Rochester's doing that. I think we can solve housing that's affordable, business that's keeping pace, and a future that we decide what we want. We can be intentional, and I wouldn't be surprised if we can wrap it all up together. Best small town. We live here. Sunrise, sunset, shadows. We can value the morality of any kind of governing body by How do they treat the children at the sunrise of life, the elderly at the sunset of life, and those, for whatever reason, are currently living in the shadows of life? We live here. Best small town.
The League of Women Voters of Eastern Carver County would like to thank you all for coming tonight and our online audience for viewing. We would especially like to thank our candidates for being part of the democratic process by running for office and for being willing to serve your community. The League researches issues that are important to our members and to the health of our communities. If you are interested in finding out more about what we do and how you can also make a difference, please pick up a membership brochure at the registration table or visit us at lwvmn.org. Membership is open to people all ages 16 and older. This forum is being recorded by Chaska Community Television and will be available online on the Chaska YouTube channel. A link will also be available on the League of Women Voters Eastern Carver County Facebook page. Again, thank you for coming, and remember to vote on or before May 14th.